We are nearing the end of our small business management workbook work. Um, if you've not already opened your small business management workbook, go ahead and pause the video and do that now. Okay, in this video we're going to start out by filling in some information into our spreadsheet and see how it all works. I'm beginning on the Vendors tab, and it seems that the tabs maybe are still not ordered correctly, so I'm going to move Vendors first. So I'm going to click and hold on the Vendors tab, the Vendors worksheet, and drag it. And now it's the first tab. Okay, let's click in cell A2 and go ahead and type in a name for the vendor. You are welcome to type in any name you want there. And after you've typed in a name, you can tab and type in a number of some sort. And proceed to type in an address and a city, state, and zip. If you need more time, you can pause the video. Once you're done that, the name column is probably too small. So remember, we can simply double click between the A and B column headings. When the cursor looks like mine does right now, you just double click and that will expand A to fit the entire name. And go ahead and do the same thing for the phone and address fields. Okay, next up we need to define some products. So let's click, well first let's move the products tab in order. So after we add a vendor, we then need to add products. So let's click and drag that. And when you do that, you'll switch into the products worksheet. For the product ID, you can make up something yourself. So click in the A2 cell and type a product ID. It can be any combination of letters and numbers. The product name can be whatever you would like. When you get into the vendor column, you have the drop down for vendors. And if you scroll through that, you should see the vendor that we just added. So go ahead and choose that. Next, we specify the unit price. This is a price for each item. So go ahead and choose a price. Finally, tab into the tax class, and you've got another drop down. And you should just have the single tax class to choose from. Now, I don't know if you're seeing this, but in the unit price, I have a time rather than a dollar amount. So I'm going to click the D column heading to select the entire unit price column. And then I'm going to click the accounting number format button on the home tab of the ribbon in the number group. And now I'm going to adjust the column widths so that they fit the values I've placed in them. Great, so now we know how much we're going to charge for our widgets, and we know where we're going to get them. So now let's place an order. We're going to go to the Purchase Orders tab, and go ahead and put in today's date. Put in the PO number. This can be a random number that you choose. Choose the vendor from the drop-down. Then choose the product ID from the drop-down. The product description will automatically fill in. Type the quantity that you're ordering and how much you're paying for each of that quantity. And it will automatically calculate the total amount. Okay, our next worksheet is tax classes, and we don't need to do anything with that now. Next up, let's add a customer. In order to sell a product, we have to have a customer. So we're going to add a customer. And again, you're welcome to choose any customer name and other details that you'd like. Take your time, there's no hurry. And if you need to, go ahead and pause the video. Once again, I'm going to expand the columns to fit the data that I've added. And again, I'm just going to use the double click between the column headings to do that. When you're done making adjustments, we can switch to the Sales tab. Okay, so once again, we're going to have to specify a date, and I'll go ahead and put in today's date. The customer is a drop-down, so go ahead and choose the customer you just added. The product ID is a drop-down, so go ahead and choose the product ID you've added. The product name will automatically be filled in. The unit price and tax class will also be filled in. Now I've obviously got some issues here with my formatting, so I'm going to have to deal with those. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and add a quantity. I'm going to say that Joe here is buying 4 of these. And Joe is not tax exempt, so I'm going to choose no from the tax exempt drop down. The unit price is 2, but you notice that's not a dollar amount. So I'm going to click the G column heading to select the entire unit price column. And then I'm going to click the accounting number format button on the home tab of the ribbon in the number group. The total amount is already accounting format, that's good. The tax rate is a time again, so I'm going to do the same thing. Click the J column heading and then click the accounting number format button. The grand total at least is a dollar amount, or rather it's a decimal number, but doesn't have a dollar sign, so I'm going to do the same thing there. Now, if we go back to tax classes for a moment, we'll notice the tax rate that I put in was 0.055, but on the sales tab it says 0.06. That's because of rounding. So let's click on the J column heading again. And then notice in the number group we have increased decimal and decreased decimal buttons. I'm going to increase the decimal. And I'm going to do it a couple of times just in case somebody has a really tiny decimal fraction for the tax rate. Okay, so we have our first purchase made today. Joe Blow, or whoever your customer is, purchased some widgets or whatever your product is. In my case, he purchased 4 of them. He's not tax exempt. The unit price is $2, so the total amount is $8. This falls under the main standard tax rate, and so the grand total is $8.44. Now, what if he was tax exempt? Let's go back to the tax exempt field, click the drop down, and choose yes. Well, you'll notice it still falls under the main tax class, but the tax rate is now 0, and the grand total is $8. So you've now successfully used the workbook to record a purchase order and a sale, along with the customer, product, and vendor that go along with that. I'd like to add some more information. Let's go back to products. I'd like to use most of the same details here, but we'll change a little bit here and there. So what I'd like to do is highlight, click in cell A2 and drag the mouse without letting go of the mouse button over to E2 to highlight that whole row. Now notice over here in the lower right hand corner of what you selected, there's a green square. If you position your mouse over it, you get the black crosshairs. Click that and drag down. Now, depending on the column, that may do different things. You notice it incremented the number and the product ID. That's actually what we wanted. That's good. It also incremented the unit price. That's fine. The tax class remained the same, vendor remained the same, and the product name remained the same. So what I'm going to do now is change the product name. This is going to be a red widget. And I'm going to say that red widgets cost a little bit more, but not quite a whole dollar more. Tax class remains the same. Now I'm going to go back to sales, and I'm going to highlight cells A2 and B2 because I want to use those same pieces of information. Use that same little box, that's called the fill handle, and drag down. Now you'll notice the date incremented. It increased by 1. That's fine. Let's choose our new product ID. And let's say he bought 10. He's not tax exempt still. So we can now see the unit price is $225. 10 at $225 is $22.50. And then he paid some tax on top of that for a total of $23.74. Okay, let's highlight the date and customer again and fill down a couple of rows. Now when I say fill down, that means drag that fill handle down. And so now Joe is making a purchase every day. That's great for us. Let's go ahead and say he bought some more of each of our products. And let's say that for one of those purchases, he did qualify for a tax exemption. Maybe he's a merchant, and um, most of these he's using for himself, but some of them he's going to resell to somebody else. So in that case, he would qualify for a tax exemption on what he's going to resell. And once you've done that, go ahead and save the workbook. And in our next video, we are going to do some analysis of the sales that we made.